About Thursday.
Good afternoon, world. It's moments past noon in Waxahachie, Texas, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State. Today is November 26th, and it's the 21st episode of Grit and Good News. We're broadcasting live from our palatial downtown second story studio in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. And by the way, we will not be broadcasting on Thanksgiving Day. You got enough going on without listening to us. I'm your co-host, Jeff Lynch. It gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce our host, my friend and yours, Scott Brooks.
Thank you, brother. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thanksgiving Eve.
TV.
Yeah. So as Jeff just said, we won't be here on Thursday. We're going to take it off along with all of you, but we'll be back next Tuesday, raring to go. Thank you for being here. We do this show every Tuesday and Thursday, noon to 1 o'clock, and we have a blast. And we hope you do too. We know our audience is growing, which we're very grateful for. Speaking of Thanksgiving,
Right.
grateful for. And there's so much to talk about in the world. Yes, sir.
And before we dive deep,
Yes.
speaking of calendars, so this will be our last show of November.
Yep.
Obviously, in December, we'll be changing the calendar and
There you
talking
go.
about the common months. But this is day 26 of our faces held in captivity by our desire
Oh,
to share No Shave November and what it's about.
could this be
And
any
men,
rattier?
could it be any raggier? No, I
Oh,
don't know what
yours looks good. Mine's like,
I
what
still
the
got
heck?
too many patches. I think I'm going to leave a little Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, you got the Abe Lincoln thing
but
going. Amish.
this is the last.
Yeah, I
you
look
have
in
to
the
see
mirror
this.
every day and I'm thinking, this is just hideous.
Yeah.
And my wife's making it harder now because she said the other night, she said, Scott, I really like she couldn't call it a beard. She called it a goatee. So I didn't bother because I can't, whatever. I don't know what this is. This is like a lawn that's got dead
It's
parts of it.
fallow country. Was it Wee Willie Winkler that said that he liked to hit them where they ain't? Okay, and I whenever I try anything, I just like to. I don't like to grow it where they ain't.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I can't grow them where they
I could
ain't.
get like a pin or something. They make those pins to make it fuller. But anyway,
Yeah.
we digress.
Yes.
But yes, we have until Sunday. Is Sunday the 30th?
No,
I think so.
Well, no, 30 days has September.
I know,
isn't
but
it?
Sunday's the 30th. And so we
No,
can
no,
shave
no.
what we don't want on. Yeah, it is. The 28th is Thursday, 29th, 30th, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, next week is December.
Yeah.
Jonna says, hello.
Hello.
Jonna, hope you're doing well. So we have a number of things we want to talk to you about as usual. One of the things we're kind of all over the place today. We're going to go from something, all of it's serious in a way, but some of it's unpleasantly serious, but we don't want to avoid those subjects that we need to talk about. But then, this is our last show before Thanksgiving, so we want to talk about Thanksgiving. So what we're going to start with, what really is going on in D.C. with respect to the Biden administration and Ukraine. We know that some decisions have been made recently by the Biden administration to say, okay, we're going to take some serious. I mean, it's serious action what's being taken in by the Biden administration with respect to Ukraine, which is then with respect to Russia. So Biden has said we are now going to give Ukraine stronger, better, more powerful missiles,
Longer range.
and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we're going to get more serious in helping Ukraine combat Russia. Before we get to that, though, I will readily admit, just so there's context here, that I'm not a fan of what we have done as a country with respect to Ukraine. I believe we're now probably somewhere maybe northwards of $100 billion that we've given to Ukraine without any accountability. And Ukraine is not known as the Mother Teresa of countries in the world. Little Vladimir, is it Vladimir?
Vladimir Putin.
No. What's Zelensky's first name? You remember? I can't remember now.
It is also Vladimir.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So we have no accountability. We're giving all this billions of money to a country that we're trying to help protect itself from an invasion of Putin, but we don't have any accountability. So we don't know where the first dime of that money is going. In addition, we're sending them arms and whatever missiles in this case. So
With the exception of not having our feet on the street there,
yeah,
men fighting, uh, it's the European Vietnam is what it is right now.
I think you're right about that. And so we have all this money going over. We have zero accountability, which is are the two pieces of corruption, leads to corruption. And so I have been opposed to, unless we had a real clear understanding of how that money's being spent, what Zelensky's doing with it, where it's going, what kind of progress we're making with it. I'm not in favor of just continuing to send money over there. I never have been. Now, I had a talk with our uh, U.S. Congressman for our district, Jake Elzy, who is in favor of supporting Ukraine. And it's not that I don't want to support Ukraine, I just don't want to blindly support Ukraine. And so I'm already behind the eight ball, as it were, with respect to what I think about what's going on over there. Of course, we know what Putin's made of, but Putin has started a war 3 years ago, given our discussion earlier, more than 3 years ago. Really, in February, March, it'll be 4 years. And I think if I could just say one thing about just who might be winning and who might be losing, which I don't really know, but I don't think Putin expected the kind of resistance that he's gotten. I think he thought he could go into Ukraine, take it over, and be done with it
Right, right.
in a matter of a year, if not months.
And do you fight wars to fight wars and have countries torn up and lose your great young men and women and civilian casualties? Do you fight wars to fight wars, or do you fight wars to win them?
Yeah.
And neither side seems to have any prospect of winning this.
Yeah, or
Okay,
what winning means.
and
Yeah.
again, that's why I make the Vietnam
And the
reference.
comparison. Yeah.
So uh
That's a good
so
point.
that's rough. And then the other thing, regarding what you said about Biden is it's an interesting timing situation. I mean, and it goes back to are you fighting to win it? Why did he not do that at the beginning?
Right.
Okay. Remember how long the buildup was on the border?
Hmm.
And then a lot of them were spilled over into Bulgaria, wasn't it?
Right.
Okay. So you got this massing waiting to happen.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I guess it wouldn't be in Ukraine's position to start offensive until they'd been invaded. But the minute they cross the border,
Yeah.
if you got that stuff and you just go bing, bang, boom, get back,
Yeah. So
back.
yeah, it is interesting timing. I think the bold part of me says that it's purposeful timing. In insofar as
I don't
we're
think that's
less
that
than
bold.
yeah, well, yeah, you're right about that. But we're less than 60 days from the inauguration when Trump takes over and Biden decides to send in these missiles. These missiles are called ATACMS, but it's not a word, it's an acronym. And the acronym is, I'll share it with you. It's pretty interesting if the more you learn about what's being sent over to Ukraine, these ATACMS. Right now, we can go with what Biden has had all these years, roughly 50 miles. They have a 50-mile range on them. So at the most, it can go 50 miles into Russia, assuming that those things are set up on the border to fire into Russia. So they can go 50 miles. The acronym is ATACMS, but they're called ATACMS. These missiles can go 190 miles. So from 50 miles compared to 190 miles. So if you're sitting at the border, which I assume that's where these missile launchers are, instead of going 50 miles into Russia, we can now go. They can go 190 miles into
That's
Russia.
a trip to Houston.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, for sure. So they can go further, but I think Russia. I know Russia has moved back its long range stuff that won't be impacted by a 190-mile missile. So
Right.
you know, and I've read enough to know that the Biden administration is not planning on sending any more uh, missiles into Ukraine. So Ukraine has 190 miles worth of damage that it can do, up to 190 miles.
Circle.
Yes. exactly.
But posters got to go north because you can't go,
Yeah,
you know,
right, exactly. That's you're
north
aiming
and
that
east,
way.
north and east. Yeah.
So, so the interesting part, the whole reason why we want to talk about it is because next week we're going to talk about the draft. Because there are things about the draft in America that most people don't know that we have studied and that do exist that we want to share with you all. But this puts us, I think, without being melodramatic or hyperbolic, puts us on the verge of a World War III. When you think about uh, what is the little guys, North Korea, Russia, and China, all in cahoots. We know that North Korea has said we'll give you troops to help you fight this battle. So North Korea is teaming up with Vladimir. So we got Vladimir and Little Rocket Man, as Trump called him, teaming up together. So we know that that's volatile. Then we know in the Middle East that there's certainly as much volatility as ever. So are we sitting on a we sit in Waxahachie and everything's the same. We're about to celebrate Thanksgiving. We're going to enjoy all of that. At the same time, the world's on fire.
And let's not forget our troubles to the Pacific.
Yeah.
Now, remember this: North Korea sent a bunch of troops over to there to that border.
Yeah.
Okay, now we send the big bombs over there and wipe out all those guys.
Hmm.
What's
Yeah.
our little rocket man in
Yeah.
North Korea? That guy's a hot button.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, and so um, this will be an interesting topic about the draft, um, reviewing the history of it, and um, let's put it like this: the Secret Service, not the Secret, the Selective Service Administration still is in existence,
Yeah.
and there's still a rule that 18-year-old young men to 25 need to register for that.
Hmm.
That gives us a whole nother
Yeah. So we're
story.
gonna.
It gives us a whole nother story about the women's rights people that don't seem to worry about the fact that they're not required
Yeah. So
to sign
yeah.
up.
Well, you got a point there. So we're gonna talk more about that next week. But so we have it's on fire in Europe. Eastern Europe. It's on fire in the Middle East. We're right now about to go through the confirmation hearings for a new cabinet, which will include the Secretary of Defense, which in and of itself is a, figuratively speaking, a verbal war right now with, saying Heg says this and Heg says that. We got a president that's about to be inaugurated. We got the outgoing president, who is, for all practical purposes, useless, making radical decisions hi Rita, how are you? Thanks for joining us. But
And
it's a quagmire of potential war, and I just think we need to be aware of it. We don't need to be blind to it. That's the whole idea of the show, is to make sure that you learn things that you don't know otherwise. And if you think it's just the right or conservatives who are saying what is going on with Biden, we got Michael Moore. Here's a story off Fox News by Michael Moore, that saint of a human being, uh, who last week, no, 3 weeks ago, said it's going to Trump is toast, is what he said, and then he had a chance to just change his mind right before the election. He said, "Nope, Trump is toast." So Michael Moore comes out and it says Michael Moore lashes out at Biden, says he's leading America into World War III. And he asked Biden the question, is this your legacy? This is what you want your legacy to be? And at this point, I say to myself, if I'm 80, I think Biden just had a birthday. If I'm 82 years old and I don't know what day it is, I can't walk, and I'm I mean, the other night, and I don't want to belittle him because we got family members we love s- deeply that have dementia. And so it's not something to make fun of. But the point is,
they're
oh
not
man,
running the United
they're
States
not
either.
running the United States and not making decisions about war. And I'll be damned if my oldest son was in war. I don't want another son to ever have to be in war. And these guys Biden's playing tiddlywinks in a way, because you're right. Why didn't he do this last year at this time?
In all the history of mankind, going back to kings and whatever, um, it was always the youngest and finest that are the fodder.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, you said it a minute ago. Think about the hundreds of thousands of young people in Ukraine that have been killed, decimated. Same thing in Russia. Think about them.
there after World War II in the United States, there was a shortage of of men of marrying age,
Yeah.
18 to
Yeah.
25, 30. I mean,
Right. Sammy's age.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just
Sad, really. And the last thing I want to say about this, Howard Baskin, a good friend of mine and a community leader here in town, has a young man working for him. They have a bed and breakfast. They have a young man from Ukraine working for them. He's 22 years old. His name is Valerie. Yeah, I couldn't say the last name if I had it in front of me, but Valerie is looking for full-time work. He's moved to Waxahachie because his dad lives here. His dad doesn't speak a word of English, but his dad lives here. I don't know the background of that story, but Valerie is here to begin a life. And
mhm.
so he came over and spent about an hour with me. And I asked him, I said, when you talk about your sisters, because he's the only one, he and his dad are the only ones of their family that are over here. The rest are still in Ukraine, Kiev. And I said, what's it like? You see the neighborhoods we have here. We can drive down and have a burger or whatever. I said, is any part of Ukraine that way? And he said, in his broken English, although he speaks 6 languages, he said, my sister, who's a little girl, 10, I think,
Mhm.
he said she sleeps in a shelter on the concrete with a blanket and essentially lives a life that has the variables in it like that. So, she doesn't get up the
So
next
how
day.
long has he been here?
He's been here only uh, a matter of months, I think.
I think there's a little guilt in him saying, "I'm over here in the greatness of Waxahachie, Texas, in the big United States, and she's back there."
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I think there's a family plan for that all to happen, but it's not easy to get them out.
How is it that he sought you out to come talk to? Certainly not because he heard of you on Grit and Good News. Is it
Howard,
because has an education and he finds newspapers interesting,
well,
and that's why I wanted to
well, it
see
was
you?
more from an angle. Howard wanted to introduce him to a couple of community people in town, and so he asked if I would spend some time with
Okay,
him and
okay,
see.
all right.
Valerie's interests are
And Howard is who?
Howard Baskin. He used to own the that little place right up here, English Merchant or whatever
Yeah,
little place,
right.
but he owns a bed and breakfast,
Okay,
and Valerie's helping him out with that. But he
okay.
wants to introduce Valerie to a number of people that can maybe lead him to a
Gotcha,
job.
gotcha.
He has certain interests. He's not interested in journalism,
Okay.
but I want to be able to help him. But I found it incredible that here's a young man. He was dressed just like I told him this. I said, "You have you ever seen Peaky Blinders? I don't know if you've seen it." But he said, "Yes, I've seen it," and he's dressed just like one of them, like a gang member in a classy way
Huh.
from London. Had on
Okay.
that tam hat and suspenders, and he was looking sharp. But he wants to find work here, so that's why I talked to him. But for him to explain, that his family, rest of his family's still over there, England English merchants, is what uh, Howard owns or did own. He sold it since, but it was just a fascinating thing to listen to him talk about that,
Huh.
about his little sister. And
Yeah.
you could
Huh.
tell the disposition was,
Right.
I got to get her here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to talk more about the draft next week. We'll talk more about what's happening with the threat of war, and we want to keep our finger on the pulse of that because Trump has said he's going to end it, and we're going to find out pretty soon how that's going to happen. All right, so let me tell you about a great place to eat lunch. It is now 12:18.
And dinner.
Yeah, and dinner and breakfast. That is Cancun's. Cancun's is on 77, about 2.5 miles north of 287 on the west side. Beautiful building. It's among other businesses there. Just before you get to Butcher Road. But if you're looking for a great, it's more than Tex-Mex, as Jeff and I talked about. Jeff ate there the other night, but it's American Tex-Mex. So you get all kinds of food, but breakfast, lunch, dinner. You said you had what the other night?
I had the nachos,
No.
the individual round tortilla
Oh yeah,
with it.
that
Yeah,
was good, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. But every Friday night is you can get it anytime, but every Friday night is catfish.
Catfish, big. A lot of people eating
Yeah.
catfish.
Oh man,
A lot more American food than I expected here.
yeah, it's good. It's such good food and such good people. Convenient. Your service was good.
Nice service, yes.
Great ambiance. Jeff and I got into a discussion, not to go off track here, about menudo. Neither one of us have had menudo, and I don't know that we will, but I know they do. They do a bang up business in Menudo, man. Every time I come over there, there's a big old bowl of that stuff going to somebody. But if you're interested in a really nice restaurant that's been here a long time, Cancun's is your place. All right. So, what is Thanksgiving really about? All my life, I'm 63. I act 23 sometimes. I want to think of myself as being 43. and because I have younger kids, I think, I feel younger. But all my life, it's been Thanksgiving. We all get together, and I'm sure this is similar to everybody else. Somewhere, when my parents were alive, it was there at home. Watch football all day long. It used to be when we were little, we'd watch the Macy's Day Parade.
I still like doing that
Yeah,
while I'm helping out in the kitchen with yeah, with Rita doing the important stuff and me sous chefing.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that watching a parade always takes me back to when I was a young kid,
yeah,
and I like that feeling.
and I love that on New Year's Day too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So it's always been Thanksgiving. Sometime in the early afternoon we would eat, but we'd be watching football, and the men would get their plates full. And because it was always the Cowboys, still is, that are playing, usually we'd go back into the living room and all sit wherever and watch. It's the same way.
in my house, we weren't. There was no sitting in the living room with a plate on your. No, no,
Hmm.
no, no. We ate at the big dining room table in the dining room
Yeah.
or at the kitchen table, and depending on the people, the adjunct card table in the living room next to the dining room. And but you know where I always wanted to sit?
Where?
At the cotton picking kids table.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Kept me out of political talk too. That's another
That,
story for
yeah,
later on.
yeah, we got that coming up.
Because
But
you know me, I'm all kid.
the idea of Thanksgiving and in tomorrow's column, since we won't be here on Thursday to talk about the column, tomorrow's column, I decided to take a break from worldly stuff and say, really, not, every columnist in America is going to write, thanks, this is what I'm thankful for, blah, 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 which is important, which is kind of what we're doing now. But my column, I decided I would take a real, kind of a deeper look at the essence of gratitude and how gratitude, if we can all capture that essence of gratitude, how much it will enrich our lives. To
Mhm.
be thankful for something, for everything, regardless of what it is, even in dark times, to find something to be thankful for can really be a lifeline to a quality life. And so I try to take a look at that. That said, Thanksgiving. So, how will you spend yours Thursday?
On Thursday, I'll be flitting about doing whatever I can. I think we got the cooking pretty well planned out. I say we. Rita planned it out, and she's. I remember my mom never farmed anything out to anybody. She she
Mm,
she took the whole thing on, and God bless Rita. She has done that for a long time. But now I think this is our third year where one son, Brandon, will be doing the turkey. He does a great job. I don't think he smokes it. I think he uses a Traeger. I don't know exactly what he does. He comes over. It's in a cooler. It's piping hot and moist. Cuts it up on the spot. Another son, Eric, is tasked with making a massive pot of
Menudo.
no, I mean, of mashed potatoes, which all that peeling and whatnot
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a project. And so we have a few other things farmed out. I'll be making my mom's pecan pies, and so we'll just be making sure we got everything under control. People will show up at about 1:30. We'll probably eat at 2. Ball game at 3:30. And then just whatever merriment carries on into the
Hmm.
night. But so we'll have 11. We'll have 3 kids and 8 adults. Although that may be 10. I'm not sure about one person.
Yeah.
Um,
How does
so
Layla handle all that? The dog.
frantic, and I tell you what,
Frantic in a good way or
not
in the,
really, not really. The 3 grandkids, the youngest is a boy, and I can't give you his exact age. I think he's second grade, and Yeah, they've got dogs at their house too, and he'll chase her around and rile her up, and you know it kind of agitates me to see that. I only have so much place as a step godfather,
Yeah.
grandfather, uh, to tell him what to do, even though it's my house and my dog. And
Do you repeatedly have to say, "Leave the dog alone"?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it gets old.
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah,
get it. It's almost like we have to tell our chihuahuas when our little grandson, Beckham, who's 5, July, so 5 months old, 4 months old, comes over, they gotta be I mean, they can't get enough of it, and so we're telling our dogs, "Leave the baby alone," but it's gonna be a year from now where we're gonna be telling Beckham, "Leave those dogs. Let
yeah,
go of his
yeah.
wee willie. Leave his ears alone. Don't bite the dog." So we know we're gonna have some fun. Well,
And what's
we
your head count?
yeah, our head count will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
No, 10, 10.
And they're pretty much, yeah, when they're there, they're all
They're
day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Some of them, well, they're younger. So like Sammy and Kennedy come to our place, and then they have the opportunity to go to Kennedy's family. So
yeah,
they got to do split duty.
yeah.
So they will, all of them do.
All
So
of them.
we have Sammy, Kennedy, Ellie, and Chase, and then Beckham's parents, Caroline and Trenton. So actually, Caroline Caroline has her dad and his wife,
Okay.
Sonia and me, and then Trenton's family. So that's a lot to cover when they're all not in one big place. And usually,
Yeah,
families that have
yeah.
divorced, the divorcees aren't in the same place for Thanksgiving.
Right.
That would be entertaining. But so they'll be there for a few hours, and we watch football. Our dining room is where we start, but I'm always the one to, after a while, drift over to watch the game.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well,
dinner will be over at that point
yeah,
for us.
and Sonia, like Sonia's a brilliant cook. And I said to her the other night, I said, "Honey, you got enough to do." My wife's always doing something for somebody. And I'm like, "You got enough to do. Why don't we just do I couldn't remember, but don't we just do Capizanos, fajitas, and call it a day?" And she said, "No, well, I want to cook." So she'll spend tomorrow and Thursday
Yeah.
getting it ready, which is awesome. But, and no one wants me in their kitchen. No one, unless it's to get a drink. You don't want me touching food that's reliant that's dependent upon me preparing it.
But
For
I'm valuable for the grunt work I do.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's good. We all got to pitch in somehow. I try to rein the dogs in,
Mhm.
because
That's enough of a job.
they're a trip, man. But the idea of Thanksgiving, when I think about, then you have this sort of in your background too, where you've lived here a long time in terms of North Texas. But if I always looked at my life and said to my friends, like Maury, my buddy,
Right.
you and Maury are two peas in a pod for me. And Maury's my age, 1 year older than I am. He's lived in two houses his whole life. His whole life.
Mm.
I've got divorced in my life. Has It's Mary and Maury, the M family. Mary,
Right.
Maury, Maria, Maury,
Right.
and Mark.
Right.
Maury drives 10 and 5 or 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, the speed limit, as prim and proper and good as can be. Uh, and I always said, well, particularly when I was up in Buffalo, I've deprived myself of the opportunity to have roots,
Right.
but I was nearsighted. I didn't realize that there was a lot of life to live. So now, 25 years later, I'm in Waxahachie. I've been here going on 11 years. I'm married to a Waxahachiean,
Right.
and we'll never leave here. And so I am able to establish those roots. So I'm grateful for being able to say, this is home.
Hmm.
My wife says I can clean the kitchen. I do clean the kitchen. You need to go on there and correct that and say, my husband starts doing the dishes for us before we're even done eating.
Don't be making too many
Rita,
rules.
look at Rita. See,
She's taking it from me.
you help
She doesn't.
chopping.
She doesn't want to. She don't want to lose that chopping.
Great. Jeff is great at helping chopping. That's good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the idea that this is home, and now we're old enough to be the matriarch and patriarch where everybody
Yeah,
comes.
yeah,
It's like no, I don't have to take Sammy just got back from Indianapolis. I didn't have to take him to the airport, and I have to pick him up from the airport. And I'm like, I'm loving this. He's got a beautiful girlfriend that does it, and so there's some
sweet.
advantages getting to the patriarch matriarch level. But that's the
Yeah,
way it is for Thanksgiving. So
yeah.
Waxahachie is a wonderful place to be for Thanksgiving, and I'm thrilled.
And just to be in general, in terms of the thankful things of my life, it's on the list, and it's only been on the list now for going on 4 years. And but you know what? We've always enjoyed our lives wherever we were,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
good.
whatever people we were with, whatever combinations,
Yeah,
it's you think about how many changes there have been in the combinations of people. What one thing at our house growing up, um, it was kind of an unspoken rule that any of the six of us that brought a friend home, it's just like immediate acceptance of
right.
that person. If you're a friend of one, you're going to be
Yeah,
a friend of all.
yeah.
But and so the standard table of eight, mom and dad and six kids, was 95% of what we had. But any change from that, my mom would always say, "Well, isn't this an interesting configuration?"
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and it'll come and go
yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
All right, Mr. Rooter.
Mr. Rooter, yes, our good sponsor, Mr. Rooter. Sam, that picture that I took the other day, I did see them again on 77 the other day. They're actively
Yeah,
driving around our town,
good.
going to jobs. They been around since 1970. That's 54 years of solid plumbing. Um, all over North America, but local ownership. That's a very nice combination that you don't find very often. And um, they do both residential work and commercial work. And when you call Mr. Rooter, you can depend on this. You're always going to get licensed experts. You're always going to get insured plumbers. You're always going to get guaranteed parts and workmanship. You're going to be courteous, uniform professionals, and they're going to come at convenient times. You're not going to have that 1 to 4 hour, that
4 hour
4 hour
window.
window.
Yeah,
No, they're going to be friendly with every client. They're going to arrive on time. They're going to keep your home clean with mats and shoes. They're going to provide a price before they start. They're going to give you high quality, durable repairs, and they're going to stand behind their work for peace of mind. And did I mention that they do remodeling? I don't think I did.
mm-mm.
So they do remodeling also, which once they've been there and they've fixed that same toilet 4 times, the best way it can be fixed, and fix that faucet, and you see, most of this stuff is about shot, and and
Mhm.
and the husband's gonna say, "Well, she's been harping on me for so long to do something. Let's go ahead and let's do something now."
Yeah,
And they're gonna get it done. And if you want to get it done, here's what you do: you call 469-240-3113, 469-240-3113, or you can find them on the great World Wide Web at Mr. Rooter, ROOTER/Waxahachie.
very good. So, Jeff and I are going to jump into what is a bit of a sensitive subject. It has to do with Thanksgiving, uh, but we want to talk about it anyway, because I think there are probably more families and more people in our local community, but certainly across the country that are dealing with the same issues. So we have every 4 years we have an election that happens 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. These I will admit that these are acknowledge that these elections have become far more volatile than they ever have been in my life. I mean, I don't remember any time we knew that somebody voted differently than we did that it was going to remotely cause a problem at the dinner table on Thanksgiving or at any other dinner table at any other time. But now we live in a different place, different time. And so 3 weeks ago, we had an election, highly volatile. If you don't know how volatile it still is, just go take a look at X. There is a competitor X called Blue Sky now that is quick to say that they will censor They will block people for what they say. So I wouldn't recommend using Blue Sky. But if you just want to go and get a sense of what's going on, just 30 minutes, 5 minutes of reading either of those, it's like this ain't dying. It ain't going away. So we have an election. Um, and we have families that have people in their families that have developed different opinions about politics. In some cases, these are families that have people living in different parts of the country, which mean that they are depending on where they live. But if you have somebody in your family that you're going to spend Thanksgiving with that lives in California or in the upper Midwest or in the Northeast, chances are they didn't vote the same way we did here in the South. So you have this setup of, okay, it's the you talk about an elephant in the room. How do we totally avoid it, or do we address it? And if we address it, do we address it before Thanksgiving and say we're not going to talk about it at Thanksgiving, or we are and we're going to be nice? So we have all these variables about Thanksgiving and how do we keep the sanctity of Thanksgiving in place, realizing that some families, many families, have people from different political views, way different,
Right.
and walks of life that just can't help themselves.
Well, and I think it's best to be made clear that there are so many other things that can be talked about. Let's not do that. Let's just take a don't attitude, and let's remember this. Do you think Sonia is under any entertaining stress from cooking all day and having a
Yeah,
house full of people, and Rita the same, and you the same? I mean, we love having people there, but it is stressful having people at your house.
right.
So now you take that element into um the hosts don't want to hear people quibbling. They want to have people there for happiness and camaraderie. And I don't think the guests want to quibble, but it ends up happening that way. And here's the deal. You are not likely to change somebody's opinion. If you worked hard before the election trying to convince them of something
Hmm.
and they didn't go that way, now here's what happens. Losers get hurt. They're hurt.
Yeah,
Nobody likes to lose at anything.
right.
Winners are triumphant and sometimes gloatish.
Yep.
Okay. Now you got people that lost and people gloating with opposite
Hmm.
feelings. That's just a firecracker,
Yeah, it's a
man.
recipe
Uh,
for
you know, and
dynamics.
and remember this also. Every I can't think of anybody who voted either way that can say my candidate was perfect in every way, and that's why I voted him. A lot of people were conflicted of it.
Hmm.
And I know I've got a daughter. I was having lunch with her right before the election, and she was talking about friends that she had. And she said, I got three different girlfriends that all independently told me the same thing. I think I said this on the show once, but I gotta say it again. They all said, you know what? We don't like Donald Trump. We don't like him at all. But we feel take care of our family and take care of our needs. We think he's the candidate that we're going to vote for. And they're voting with policy over
Personality. Yeah.
they're voting for the policy despite the person. I know other people that went the exact other way.
Yeah.
They said, "Man, I stood for his policies, but I just didn't like him, and I went with Kamala." So people are conflicted in that way, and um, when you have this type of discussion, people feel personally attacked. Okay, because it's about an issue, but because you went the other way on the issue, now you're schmuck. You're on
Yeah.
the outs.
Right.
I don't even
Yeah.
want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's as dramatic as that. And I know you have a few more things you want to share. It's that dramatic where people, there have been people talking heads on TV, psychotherapists and such that have said, some have said, no, either address it prior to so that you can have a normal conversation about it if
Right.
you want to while at Thanksgiving. There are others that are other psychotherapists are saying don't go, just don't go. And it's not necessarily. We know some cases, examples where it's not the person not going that's the one with the problem of being there. It's the fact that the person not going knows that the others are going to be on attack and probably can't keep their mouth shut. So you just want to avoid the situation because you're right. Nobody's mind's going to be changed over this. I was up at Maury's back in early September to attend a wedding of a dear friend of ours. His son, he'd passed away, and then his son got married. So I wanted to be up there. So we were up there, and we were all having. They're Italian, so we were having a big Sunday dinner.
Nice.
I mean, there were probably 10 of us around the table, and I didn't know anybody's politics. And but I did say something about. I did ask the question. Essentially, is everybody here politically like-minded? And real quick, Maury's brother and that same brother's wife did this, and I said, "Okay, carry on." Never mind.
Yeah.
So and it never came
Yeah.
back up again.
Right.
Nobody was offended. Nothing. We didn't say anything. But it had that conversation. Just a few words would have led us. We'd still be sitting at that table.
And you know what? If it's going on between two people, then that
Yeah.
can divide the family into camps.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then the healing is tough. So
Don't you want to just say, "Well, y'all shut up"? If you hear you got 15 people in your house, or 11 or 12, and we got whatever, and you got two of them over there just
yeah.
battling one another, you want to say, "Just shut up," or take it outside. We don't want to be
Right.
impacted by that.
Right.
Or in my case, I'd probably jump in the middle of the argument. I don't want to do that.
Right.
So, for those of you that are facing it, I'm not any advisor on this stuff, but I would say that if you know that the conversation is going to go sideways, then it's better not to have the conversation.
Yeah.
If you can't have a conversation about it, just, offer a few comments and then carry on.
Yeah.
Then what's the harm?
Yeah.
But I had somebody that I wrote a Saturday column. I don't do it very often, but I wrote a Saturday online only column, and it was basically saying, why would anybody be against Musk and Ramaswamy cutting saving trillions or whatever it's going to be? And somebody, many people post. So one of them posted and said, because they weren't elected to do Congress's job, and because neither one of them are in government. And I thought, well, that's the very reasons why they will be successful. They're not beholden to the government, and there are a lot of jobs in government that aren't elected positions. That really isn't my point here. My point was it was something good, but there was still a desire to argue about it. And so when you think about families getting together,
Yeah.
even if you were to convince somebody in your family that Trump is going to do good things for them, which I believe he will, they aren't going to let go of the hatred they have for him, and so still want to argue about it.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough thing. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, it's sad when it happens. That's all I
Yeah,
can say.
I think Sammy just got back from his brother and sister's house in Indianapolis, and they're both from Texas, born and raised in Texas, but they moved to Seattle, and now one of them lives in Indianapolis, and they are both staunchly liberal. And Sammy did the right thing because they brought it up, but Sammy just disengaged and saved himself a lot of headache. So enjoy Thanksgiving, and just if you can, I would just stay clear of the conversation if you can. All right, it is time. Click, 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 click. Rhyme time.
What time is it?
Rhyme time.
You
What
kidding
time
me?
is it, Sammy?
Already?
Can y'all
Rhyme
hear
time?
Sammy? If you can hear Sammy, say yes. Sammy's got him a fancy. It's what? Oh, well, that's no good. Well, unmute it. Oh, okay. Sammy's got him a microphone. Yeah, go ahead, Sammy. Go. There you go. We are sorry on our timing.
That's okay.
Yeah, but Sammy's got him a fancy microphone over there, so now we're going to be able to hear Sammy.
Hello, everybody.
engage.
Hello.
Yeah.
That's our
Did you
man.
turn it on?
Mhm.
Yep. All right, there's Sammy. Some people say he sounds just like me.
We'd be lost without him. We'd be lost.
We
without
would
him.
be. All right, so let's lay it on us.
So The other week I did read a poem called Election, and prophetic as it was, reflection, election, dejection.
Mm.
These terms go hand in hand. Come November, we vote across this land, and I get into not complaining about how it comes out and da 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 da. And I wrote that October 27th of 2020, and we know what a volatile year that was, and what a volatile election that was, and so I wrote this November 7th. It must have been 2 or 3 days after the election, maybe even
It
that
might have
year.
been,
Might have been the day after the election.
or yeah, I don't know what
Uh,
it's about, but
it's
it could have. Yeah, the elections are always that what
yeah,
first or second Tuesday?
yeah.
Yeah, first Tuesday.
So this is kind of a follow-up to an election poem, and it's also about an election. But again, what a year that was. And you know, at the, I didn't think we could top some of the things that happened then, and I think we did actually.
Yeah.
Here we go. Long strange trip, November 7th, 2020. It sure was a strange election trip this year. I figured half the folks would shed a tear. The left turned out to be the people's right. The right turned up a little short on might.
Mhm.
This will be my shortest poem ever in my life. This country hasn't been so divided. Never. Yet the 60s were tough, but this year's been more than enough. Widespread bitterness and hate is now our daily fate. Everyone's the judge. Nobody cares to budge. It's time we all take a big breath. Let's have no more useless death. United we must stand in this big, wide, beautiful land.
Amen. So, do you think that begs the question? Do you think when you wrote that, the environment then was it more volatile than today, or is today more volatile than then, in your opinion?
Um, I think 10% more volatile, and I'll tell you why. Because this
Today is?
no no
No,
I
then
think I
was?
think that then was
Yeah.
um there was in this election. I think the left, the Democrats, they took a real hard time with the loss, but with the Trump loss, it became more than just hurt. It became controversial in the questioning and da 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 da. If if that had been a clear cut decision with no questions at all, I don't think we'd have had any kind of an insurrection issue on January
No,
6th.
we wouldn't.
So we're talking about early November election that carries the discord all the way up into January 6th,
Hmm.
and a discord that never really went away in his whole presidency. So we'll call it a 4-year discord. So um, I think worse than
Yeah. Worse than. Yeah.
although until you ask that question, I thought this was pretty tough this year, but
Yeah.
it really was worse, wasn't it?
It just made me think that we need to have I think we'll do a segment in the next few weeks on insurrection. We've had discussions about people not knowing what when they call somebody a Nazi
Hmm.
or whatever, that they really don't know what they're saying.
Right.
When I hear incessantly, particularly in DC, these guys and ladies calling Trump an insurrectionist, I want to examine what an insurrection and an insurrectionist actually looks like,
Hmm.
because I don't see it. And maybe I'm blinded by my support of Trump. I'll be happy to admit that. But on the other hand, an insurrection that requires punishment is different than what happened on the January 6th back then. And so it might be good for us to just examine it and
Yeah.
take a look at it, because it's turned into something really awful. I mean, there are people like me and you in prison, and for doing nothing but being up there. And I think they're going to be at some point pardoned by Trump, but it's an awful thing. All right. Pier 7 Seafood. I've told you about Cancun. So we got Tex-Mex, Americana Tex, whatever I need a Ameritex-Mex,
They call it a Miramex.
Amerimex. Well, we left out Tex though.
Well, they don't have the
Ameritex-Mex.
text in that.
Oh, well, I created a new name.
But back to
Ameritex-Mex.
Pier 7.
Pier 7. If you want seafood instead of Ameritex-Mex, you can go to Pier 7 Seafood Bar and Restaurant on I-35, just about 10 minutes north of Waxahachie, going north. No, I just said that. North on the right side of the road, which would be the east. You can't miss the big 7 sign that's out there. They got wonderful food, wonderful people, nice drinks, nice bar. They got some specials that you'll want to buy. But if you're in the mood for great seafood, go to Pier 7 Seafood, Juicy Seafood Bar, and have a great time. All right. So now let me just say this. The today in history, last week, I finished the month or the day 9-1 or 7-1. So bring it. Bring it. So we do this today in history. We love to have you participate. We know there are a lot of people that do like to participate. They send us their answers. They're usually wrong. If they're right, they cheated. But anyway, so Sammy has the rules up, but this is one of our
You get
fun
a point to get it
segments.
right. You lose a point. If you don't, you get 2 points if you hit it on the head. And by the way, getting it right gives you 7 years each way. That's a 14-year swing. If you can't get in there, you don't deserve a win. Sometimes we have a fun fact. It's really determined by Rita giving me the fun fact. And our second one has a fun fact on a person's name. And I did not get the bonus for that. And I feel bad about that. And we only have 5 entries this week, a very low.
That's kind of weak.
And do your math. But how could I go 6-2 if there were only
You
5?
you got 6-2. You got 3 bonuses.
I got 3 bonuses, and I started 0-2, and then I ran the table. And here we go.
All right, let's go.
President George Washington held his first full cabinet meeting. In attendance were Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of War. We had a Secretary of War back then, Henry Knox, and Attorney General Edmund Randolph. And what was that first cabinet meeting year? And I got this wrong.
I think I'm gonna get it wrong, but I'm gonna say 1790.
1798.
1791. So
Sammy cheated off me.
Yeah, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
This is an interesting combination. This is a Renaissance man. Whoever heard of an English mathematician and writer? That is a diverse man.
Yeah.
Charles Dodgson presented a handwritten and illustrated manuscript, Alice's Adventures Underground, to his 12-year-old friend, Alice Pleasance. That's a beautiful name, Pleasance. That's just, oh my gosh.
Is that her last name, middle name,
Middle
first
name,
name?
Lydell. I don't know if that's a
Pleasance.
family name, but I just think I
Yeah.
like it because it's so pleasant. The book was later turned into Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, published under Dodson's pen name. Bonus for the pen name.
Did you get it?
No,
Oh,
I
I wouldn't have a clue.
When you hear it, you'll know you've heard it.
Huh.
Lewis Carroll.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
I've
so
heard that.
basically, we're looking for the publishing of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay,
You go first, Sammy.
What was the last date?
the last date was 1791. That's a good question.
1920.
1842.
1864.
In the right century.
Jeez.
Now, take it away here.
All right, let's go.
Take it away.
All right.
U.S. Secretary of War, U.S. Secretary of State Cordell Hull delivered a note to Japan's ambassador to the United States, Kishisaburo Nomura, setting forth U.S. demands for lasting and extensive peace throughout the Pacific area. The same day, a Japanese naval task consisting of 6 aircraft carriers left the Kuril Islands headed towards Hawaii.
Well, I'm going to get this right in terms of our spread of years. I'll let you cheat off me, Sam.
Yeah, I don't know.
1941.
1941 is correct for the bonus.
So that's
You got it on the dot?
On the
Yep.
dot. Because just a short 2 weeks later, on November 7th,
December 7th.
excuse me, December 7th, Pearl Harbor was attacked,
D-Day.
Oh,
but
okay.
by those 6 aircraft carriers. I don't know how many they can hold a bunch
Yeah, those things
of
are
planes.
huge.
And,
What did you say, Sammy?
I didn't say anything.
and so you got all those carriers full of planes, and that's the ones that went to Pearl Harbor.
That's crazy.
Okay, go get you another one here.
All right.
President Richard Nixon's personal secretary, Rosemary Woods,
Yeah.
told a federal court that she had accidentally caused part of the 18.5-minute gap in a key Watergate tape.
What was last date?
Last date was in 1941. No, nowhere close to that. President Richard Nixon, Richard Milhouse Nixon,
94.
94.
73.
Boom. Boom.
What? That's
Sam,
crazy.
Sam, we lived some of this stuff. We didn't live World
Yeah.
War II, but we know that.
The exact year? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, it
We're
had
good.
to be it only had to be the gap there. I knew
Yeah.
it had to be in Nixon's.
Yeah, I don't know.
President.
He was
Presidency
elected
area.
in 68. He was reelected in 72.
Yeah.
The Watergate crisis happened in that election, and boom, there
Watergate's
you
was a big deal.
go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now bring it home.
All right.
You ought to be able to. Florida Secretary of State Katherine Harris certified George W. Bush the winner over Al Gore in the state's presidential balloting by a 537 vote margin.
It's amazing.
That's the Florida vote, but that was key in the election. It came down to just that state.
The problem for me is I know
2000.
the year of that election, but her decision or her whatever came months later. I'm going to say
It's
I'm going to
2000.
mess up. 2005.
Well, Sam, thanks for schooling your dad.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said 2000.
2000.
Well, no, I
She,
thought
she had to certify the winner.
Oh,
So,
I was thinking
so,
it's
that, so
2004
that the election
election.
could be decided.
Well,
give me
Uh-oh.
some of that, Sam.
Uh-oh.
I
Give
would
me
have.
some of
I
that.
still would have missed it.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
you did not get the bonus. You
No,
got
but
the
1,
loss.
2,
Oh,
3,
God.
Wait,
4,
what was the year,
5,
though?
6, and 1.
2000
Oh, I got on the dot?
on the dot. Yeah.
Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, you still have a losing record.
Yeah.
What was your total?
My
I
dad's
went
a
6
hater.
and 2.
I went.
You didn't get 6.
Yeah, I did. I got 2 bonuses,
Yeah.
so it means I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1.
Okay.
I guess. Anyway, yeah, that was. I would have still said 2001 on that one. That I may not have counted right. I mean, if I'm going to win or lose, I'm going to be honest about it.
You know you are.
All right. Well, the day in history. Sammy is 20 years old. He's been doing this with us from the get go. We're in our how many shows? 21.
21.
And so, Sammy has even said that he's learning something in this day in history. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's fun, and it's what's fun is to learn something.
Yeah.
Even at 63 years old, I like learning stuff.
Yeah.
And some of these things I can remember, but even Nixon, there's good movies about that Watergate.
Mm-hmm.
But people like Sammy and his friends, they don't know anything about Watergate. They don't even know why it was
No
called
clue.
Watergate.
No clue.
But it'd be a good movie. I'll find the movie and send it to you so y'all can watch it.
Okay.
All right. So again, it's our last show for this week. We won't be here Thursday. We'll be back next Tuesday. We will. We'll deal with Christmas when it gets here, or as we lead into
Yeah.
Christmas. But Christmas
We'll
is on
take
a
some time off.
Wednesday.
We'll take some time off.
Yeah. So we hope that each of you has a wonderful Thanksgiving day, and hopefully you get Friday off as well, and have a 4-day weekend. We enjoy you being here. We don't take it for granted. We are grateful that you're here. Our show's growing. We want to keep it growing. We want to be Waxahachie's go-to place instead of going to Fox or to whatever. We'd love for you to come here, and we're going to try to cover basically the same stuff.
And
If
you know,
not
we love it when the people are making comments, and
Yeah.
and it's nothing. Sam, tell
What's up?
our people how many viewers we had on our Facebook section last Thursday.
For the last show,
Yeah.
it's at 1,000 on Facebook.
1,000. that tells you they're not all listening here at
Yeah.
12 noon, but we love you all. That's my point.
We
We
do,
love
we
you all.
do.
Yeah, and we want to be a safe place, and we do hear throughout the week. I do, and about the show, and really appreciate it. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and as always,
Remember, don't write a check you can't cash. Boom.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.